Hi everyone, welcome to this spooky month Halloweeny special Monday time lapses. Here I am drawing a vampire cowboy, or at least a 2B vampire cowboy. I tried to do so on stream, but I had a little bit of issues, so here I'm kind of going back and trying to do the pose all over again. For this, I'm thinking about a solemn, sad type of vampire guy. He's a good guy, good heart, and kind of got fooled in becoming a vampire. He was at his wit's end. So here I'm trying to see, okay, maybe the sprite needs to be smaller, maybe it needs to be bigger. I have him in a sort of pose where his head's looking down, he has his cowboy hat over his heart, and he just looks very solemn. And once I get an idea for a pose, I did like this one, so I went with it. I didn't try out other poses. Here I'm just trying to figure out now the eyes and the position. The fun part with this character is that we used a randomizer to create him on stream. He has yellow light skin, he's a high elf, he is a bard and a charmer. He has partly shaven hair that's light brown and it's straight and very short, and it says he has bluish gray eyes and very heavy makeup on his face. So those are the attributes I have to work with, and I'm trying to create that into a character. Here I'm trying to figure out, okay, for the eyes at least, maybe heavy eyeliner. But the thing is, it made him look far more feminine than I wanted him to look. So okay, maybe more narrow eyes, but again, it made him look more hostile and menacing than I wanted him to. Is at least not now in his life state he's menacing. He's more so just sad, and it just happened. He just got turned into a vampire, but not quite. Like, this would probably be the night of that he got turned into a vampire, when he was down on his luck. He's looking down because he's down on his luck, and here all I'm trying to do is figure out head shape, eye size, and moving things around to see what feels right, and going up and down. I'm messing around with the eye size itself, the pupil parts and pupil area. I want him to look down, and I had trouble with this last time, trying to get his eyes to look down, and that's why it was a one pupil dot, making him look sad with a frown, but I'm having his eyes look down. It's tricky because it's a one line or two line, but I eventually decide, okay, I'll come back to the eyes, let me try working on the hat. Previously, I had a working hat, so here I'm trying to look at this and look at the references I'm looking at to try to figure out, okay, how's the hat supposed to look? How's the hat supposed to be shaded? I've really never drawn a hat before, nor a cowboy. So this was a second time, technically, since that hat you see me cutting and cropping and trying to restructure was my first try, or at least second try, at that same day. This would be the second day trying. But I'm looking at a reference here, and I'm trying my hardest to just one-to-one it, while also not one-to-oneing it. I'm trying to keep in mind perspective and angles. No, angles. Angles. No, angles is right. And angles, I thought I tried a few times, so here I'm trying a more painterly method where I'm just blobbing out colors that I'm seeing on the hat. I'll make sure to post the picture I'm looking at for reference. But here, all I'm trying to do is just look at this image and paint the colors I see and use that paint as pixel art. That's what it came down to. Since I've had a hard time actually drawing the hat itself and blobbing everything out, I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna take all the colors I see and move them down, be it the shadows or shading or lighting, and move those all around so it feels like a hat. And I do think this method worked and helped. If I had better knowledge of what cowboy hat was, I'm sure I could have done probably a better job, but for what it was, I think it came out a lot better than my original hat. I was told the pointy parts of the hat are called the teeth, which is interesting. So that's what I'm trying to describe here in the center. That's that light and dark part. One point is facing above towards the light, one part's facing below. Once I get the hat idea going down, I then next move on to his hands, and this is a little tricky as I'm still trying to figure out how to do pixel arty hands, and I didn't want to do high detailed hands. I just wanted hands. I wanted this to be a very low detail but high detail in a sense, so his hands are one color, they're not multiple colors, as I think doing too many colors would kind of muck it up a little bit. So once I now have the hat done, I go back to the face and I go back to the eyes, and here I'm just trying to overall see, okay, raise the eyes, lower the eyes, move the eyes to the left, move the eyes to the right, raise the eyebrows, lower the eyebrows. For the makeup here, I'm trying to see, okay, maybe eyeliner or something, maybe I'm looking at the screen, left, right, trying to figure out. This kind of made him look very angry, and I didn't want angry, I wanted solemn. And I remember from last week where I did the wishing well ghost, and how I was so close to making her look sorrowful, so I kind of took those thoughts into mind where The eyebrows help make him look more sorrowful and more so, I guess, regretful. The idea is that he is an elderly elf that lived his life seeking revenge for his parents that went missing, but he was never able to find them and he's close to his deathbed. So now he seeks, now he's going to a bar. This is him in his bar get up before he meets the vampire that changes his life forever. This was a really tricky part. Here I'm trying to figure out the neck and the clothing, as cowboy and fantasy don't really go together. I mean, I haven't tried fantasy clothing before, but fantasy cowboy, that was tricky. He's a bard, so I wanted him to have the bard ruffles around his neck, but that didn't work. Okay, I thought maybe the white sleeve kind of undershirt. That also didn't work. Okay, maybe a vest. That didn't work. I'm trying to get his eyes and his head to look different, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe his head needs to be tilted down. That didn't work. Maybe his top of the head needs to be tilted down. Not also, but I definitely think the eyebrows helped. And after that, okay, I thought maybe a necktie could help, but the necktie would be hidden behind the hat. So I changed my mind and go back. Next up, I try to figure out the clothing. Right now, it kind of looks like a vest, or not a vest, an overcoat, some sort of thing that goes around you that's just cloak, like a half cloak, and I didn't like it. I'm trying to figure out, okay, where are the shoulders? As when I'm looking at this, you can see I even go with this light blue to figure out, okay, mapping out the shoulders. Where are the shoulders? As this guy's not very buff, he's very thin, but you need to know there's shoulders there, and it just doesn't floop unless his arms are hung low in a certain posture. But because that arm is raised, the shoulders should be prominent, which is why I'm trying to figure that out and map it up. And then after that, I go towards the shoes and the boots, and I'm thinking, all right, big old boots, some big boots. I later on change it, but right now I'm just trying to figure out an overall guide and area to do. I'm trying to figure out sizing and all of those things, and figuring out, okay, pants didn't go well last time, so how can I change pants up this time? And I ended up just simplifying them as best I could. Here I ended up doing I forget what you would call it, not a necktie, but a scarf around your neck like a cowboy would have. And then after that, I'm just going back and trying to shoulder perspective of the arm, try to have that in mind when I'm doing the angles and everything. I try to figure out the fabric and the clothing, as this shirt is a little bit oversized in the sense that it has, you can see it in the bottom below his arm. That's why you can see the shadow in his arm. I try to add a little bit of shading, keep it thin, not too puffy, and just go a simple shirt, as it doesn't need to be too much, especially with this pixelart size. So keep it small. After deciding I didn't want his hand to hang low, I decided I'll just put it on the other part of the hat, and you can kind of assume that the other arm is hanging on the other side. And I thought, so it's a little bit cheatsy since you can't see the arm, but I figured keeping it more simple than the hand hanging down, I feel like it's more natural to have both hands on the hat and him looking down, kind of like he's had a mistake, he's at the ends of his ropes, that sort of thing. So that's what I ended up doing. After that, I kind of go back in, and let me go ahead and, I can't zoom the thing over. That's okay. Here I'm going in, and I believe trying to figure out my outlining. Let's see, yeah. I'm trying to figure out, okay, maybe I can have those cowboy pants. I didn't like it. I thought it was a little bit too much and a little bit too cowboy. I wanted a little bit of cowboy, not too much. I go in and I just add a more defining outline. What I do here is have his legs move in more towards each other. I didn't want it at first, but I'm thinking more in terms of silhouette and his legs just standing together. And since I didn't want very chunky boots, I thought, okay, let's try making the boots smaller. Maybe a heel. I didn't like the heel. I went back on the heel, and I thought maybe I could shade it in. Didn't work. I even tried making the heel or tip of the boot pointy, like a cowboy might have a very pointy part. Or it kind of reminded me of Jester's. I'm trying to keep in mind the bard feel of the character, but I'm getting cowboy, not getting bard. And I thought, okay, that's a little bit too tall, and I definitely go back and change that. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, cowboy done. We need more feel. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just going in and adding simple shading. I'm trying to keep things, as you can see there with the height. I definitely think that helped with things, changing the height, and I kind of compared the two side by side to see, okay, just change these height work, and you can see me trying to also add a shading to the hands, and I didn't like it, so I went back and just no shading. I add a shaded outline to the hat to kind of add a highlight, and I spray red to add to sort of the trim of the hat to show off, hey look, it's not blended in. I was going for a shaded colored outline. I think that's how you describe it, where everything on the outside is dark and light depending on the shadows. and everything else is kind of in between. So I figure out a color to do for his hand. I also figure out one for his scarf, his clothing, his shirt, his pants, his shoes, everything. And I'm just trying to keep in mind my values, as I like to go back and forth and look at everything to make sure it looks nice. You can see here I add in that, well, I struggled really hard initially on stream with this guitar. So I ended up copying and pasting that guitar and kind of modifying it. Since I did spend a lot of time, at least an hour, trying to draw this guitar, I thought, okay, let's just smush that guitar back in there to show bard, or at least musician, as it doesn't have to be detailed, it just has to hint at being a guitar. I tried a little bit to maybe do shading in the background, or at least show dimension in the bottom of it, but I ended up just making it completely one color, as again, it's not the focus, but if you can see the outline of it, it lets you know it's some sort of instrument, and I think that's enough. After I do all of that, I now add his hair. I'm going, well, like I said, the hair is partly shaven, light brown, straight, and very short. And I don't know if you've heard of Valorant before, but that was the hairstyle I was inspired by, this character called Sova. He's kind of an elfy looking guy, so I did a partly shaven hair kind of in that style, a little bit shorter than that though, at least with the kind of curtain bangs and the overhead. After that, I'm thinking, okay, about his face, maybe shaved, not shaved. Highlights at the bottom, didn't work, so I'm just outlining, smushing and pushing all of my shadows. I think about, okay, maybe it doesn't need the light at the top. It did. And here I'm just trying to figure out, okay, heavy makeup. How do I add heavy makeup when it's such a small face? So I decide to do the eyelids and the add not a blush, but it's more so just the eyelashes. I make those blue to kind of make them hopefully pop out, was the attempt here to show off, hey look, it's different, it's not typical. And then here I'm trying to figure out the face and everything, moving it aside. After that, I have a little bit of fun and I do some expressions. This is kind of a very shocked expression, like what did I just do, or what just happened, and I'm trying to mess around with everything. I thought, okay, maybe I could try a vampire version and give him some emotions and feelings. That didn't work, but that is that, and that is everything all done. So, what do you think? Does he look like a cowboy elf bard who's about to be turned into a vampire? It was fun, and it was a lot of fun also getting to design the character, his backstory and everything. And I am excited for next week, where we'll be using this character and playing through a solo RPG game, and we'll go through his journey of being a vampire. But lots of dice rolls and fun, and that'll be exciting. It'll be a spooky, seasoned, themed stream. So maybe you can join around if it's still time. Thank you for watching to the end, and thank you to Colonel for being a Patreon member of mine. On there I have the raw files of some pixel art I've done in the past, so if that's of interest to you, that'll be on there in the description below. And anyway, thank you for joining, thank you for coming, and I hope to see you soon. Alright, bye-bye!